Okay, hello everybody. My name is Adere, and welcome back to the Python camp from Learning with Me. And yeah, let's just get straight into it. So we're learning Python 3, of course, and last camp, I believe we learned about creating decisions with our Python program. We used if-else statements. We learned about elif and then creating chained conditionals and nested statements and stuff like that. And today we're going to touch on some new topics and expand our knowledge so we can do a lot more stuff. So yeah, our main focus for today is going to be loops. So creating loops with Python. But before we get into that, I want to showcase one other thing that's going to be a quick lesson on learning some more data types. So I didn't create slides for it, but I just have the web page open. It's W3 Schools. It's a great website for learning stuff, just reading up on stuff. So we're going to be learning about Python lists first. So this is just something that's important, or it's something useful to know. It's very commonly used, and it can be useful for a lot of things. But it's also pretty simple, so we don't need to spend too much time on it. So just as this website says, let me zoom in a bit in case you can't read it. Once again, we're just here for a little bit. So lists are used to store multiple items in a single variable. They're one of 4 built-in data types that are used to store collections of data. So it's another type of data type now. So we're assigning something else to variables, and it's this type of list we're creating. It can store multiple collections of data, and we can call on individual selections, and I'll show you how to do that afterwards. But yeah, anyways, the other 3 that you can use to do stuff like this are tuples, sets, and dictionaries. So we're going to be touching on dictionaries in the futures and also tuples and sets. So yeah, but lists are the ones we should start out with first. They're pretty simple. This is what they look like, and I'll showcase them in Python right now. So once again, they're used to store multiple items in a single variable, and then they're one of the things you can use to store collections of data, one of the built-in data types to do that. So let's minimize this for now. Let me open up my ID, my idle, and we'll write code there. So I was supposed to switch to a different IDLE this camp, but I postponed that just because I didn't find one I would want to use. But anyways, let me create a new Python file. Let's write some code here. So pretty much we can create a variable, of course, and call it whatever. I'll just call this one ABC, of course, equals, and then I can give it a value. So to create a list, we want to put it in between these square brackets. So we put 2 opening and closing square brackets. In between here is where we put each item on our list. So when I refer to item, I mean each collection or each individual thing we want to call on. Because remember, these data types like lists, dictionaries, tools, and stuff, they're meant to organize like larger collections of data. Sorry. So it's not just one thing like we usually have. It's not just one string like this. It's not just a single string like this. It's more larger connections. So maybe there's 2 strings. This holds 2 strings, or this holds 3 strings. So just for larger collections of data. And you can usually even differ between which ones you want to use, but lists are one of the more friendly ones, and they're probably the first ones you want to be learning. So once again, to create a list, opening and closing square brackets like this. So to add an item on our list, it's pretty simple. We can add whatever it is. So once again, we're going back to those normal data types like the strings and integers and stuff. So I can add a string, and I'll say ABC, or I guess for this example, I'll say apple. So that's the first item on our list. And to add a new item, I need to separate each item with a comma, like so. So my second item, I can have it be 47. So if this I'm an integer. For my third item, I can have it be another string. So I'll say orange. And yeah, so this is the list, and we have 3 items on our list. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to print ABC out to console. Let's see what the output is. So we're going to run the module. Let me save this as something. I'll save it in documents for now. I'll say test.py. So we run it, and we see it prints out exactly our list, and it does in the square brackets as well. It does apple, 47, orange. So I can also put variables in my list, by the way. I didn't say that, but if I had another variable, let's just say I had a variable hello, I could have that in my list as well. So I'll say hello equals test. So let's run this again, save F5. It opens up over here. We want it on this display, right? So yeah, maybe I'm going to drag this so we have it on to display. So my output's going to be on the right, and my code's going to be on the left. So we see apple, orange, test, right? So here's what we're going to do. I want to call on a specific item in this list. How do I do that? So I want to call on orange. I only want it to print the third item to string, which is orange. So how can I do that? So in order to do this, first I want to put in, let's get out of this print function so it looks a little bit less confusing. First I put in the variable name that holds my list, right? So in this case, ABC. And then I want to put square brackets again. And then in between these square brackets, what I pass is the number this is in. So first of all, something to note about Python, this is important to know as well. When you're counting upwards like this in Python, Python starts from counting at 0. So this would be considered item 0 if we're going to call on it. So this is the 0th item. This is item 1. This is item 2. This is item 3. So normally, of course, we'd read this as apple is item 1. This is item 2. This is item 3. And this is item 4. But with Python, it starts at 0. And I'll show you that right now. So if I print out, if I say this and I put it to the console, once again, this integer represents which number on the thing we're printing out. So if I print this to console, does anybody know what this is going to print out? Can somebody tell me in chat? So remember, it starts counting from 0. So it goes 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to print out hello, and we can test that for ourselves right now. Save this and run it. And we see it prints out, well, hello, the variable is equal to test. So it runs test, and that's what hello is. So yeah, it starts from 0 and goes to 3. So those are lists, and we can do a lot of cool things with them. We can store a lot of values in lists. And they're really, really useful. So once again, they're used for like collections of data that we want to assign to a single variable. So in this case, ABC. So maybe I was assigning a lot of things. Maybe I was collecting user input and I wanted them to create a shopping cart list. Let's try that quickly, I guess. So each item the user says is going to be added to that list. I guess let's go like that. So let's see. I'll just do input. My variable name is not going to be 2. I'm just going to put input. And I'll say, what would you like to add to, that's too long, I'll just leave it like this, honestly. We know what it's going to be. So basically, this is what would you like to add to your grocery list? And then to get it so that it adds each thing the user says to the list, we're going to use more operators now. So assignment operators. I think we talked about this last camp. I'm not too sure if we did, but we said this is an assignment operator and not a comparison operator. This is the comparison operator for saying two things are equal to each other, right? And we use this for creating conditions. So this is one assignment operator, the equal signs, but we need to learn a couple more. So we have this to assign just to say this is equal to this, but what if we want to add on to something? So maybe what if I say A equals, let's move this example for now. I say A equals 3. And I want to make it so that whatever the user says, so let's say B equals input. So whatever the user says is going to be added to A, and that's going to update what A's value is, right? Because sometimes we just want to update that variable itself and not create a brand new one. So I want A's value to be updated. So how can we do that? Well, first of all, if it's an integer, I know I need to put the int function around it because input saves it as a string. But to do this, we have these operators. We have this, and we also have this. So this is pretty much to append to something. This is to add on top of something. This is to add to it, and this is to take away from it. So pretty much the only one we care about right now is this one, and it's going to be used for a lot more other stuff. This is what it looks like. So this is one operator on ourselves, and it's assignment operator. I basically just call it add on. That's what I'd call it. I don't know if the proper name for it, but this is what it looks like. And pretty much to show you what it does is this. So I'm going to say A plus B, and then I'll say print A. So let's save this. Let's run it. Let's close out of this completely. Yeah. I'll just put type here so I can actually see exactly where I want to type. Run opens up on this display, drag it over here. Okay, so I'm going to say, well, first of all, we know a is equal to 3, so I'm just going to say 5 over here. And we see we get 8 to the console, because what we did here in this special case is integers, so we're basically adding on, and we're adding that 5 we entered in on top of b. So of course we could do this another way. Another way we could do this if we didn't want to update a is that we could say, we could create a new variable called c, and we could say equals a plus b, because a is our own thing and then b is the user input. So that's another way we can do it. But sometimes just creating a lot of variables for no reason, just for something simple like this, isn't really useful. So we can just use this operator right here to add on to it, right? So we're just updating this value with something added on to top of it. So this isn't just used for adding numbers together. It can be used for lists as well. So that brings me back to what I was talking about earlier. So we had our list over here. I'll just put type here again. And pretty much what was happening here was this. Let me go with this equals a. And then let's also say down here, let's create a list. I'll say b equals, let's do some better naming. I'll say cart. Cart equals list. And right now, let's say there's only apples on the list at all times. We can leave the list empty if we want to, but I'll just say there's already a single item on it. Actually, no, let's leave it empty, honestly. I'll say response add, or what should we call it? We'll say item to add. That's what we'll say. Just for sake, I'll put it below this so cart already exists like that. Okay. So we want whatever the user enters in to be added to this list. So how can we do that? So we're going to say item to add. Maybe we can do that plus thing, or actually no, we're going to do the opposite way. We're saying cart, right? So I can say cart plus equals item to add. So it's going to add that to the list. And yeah, so this operator is pretty useful and it can be used for a lot of things. I think the most probably the first time you're going to find this to be really useful is maybe in if you create a game and you're trying to keep a score of everything that's going on, you probably use this symbol to add on to that existing score, right? So say you already had a game, it'd be like something plus 1, or it could be whatever the value is. So this is just used for a lot of stuff, and it's just adding on top of to a variable's value. So in this case, we're adding on top of a list, and we're adding an item to the list. So just to see that something's actually happening here, first we'll get it to print out our list before we enter in anything. So let's say print cart, and then down here after we add our item, we'll tell it to print cart again. Cart. So of course I could add more stuff. I can say this is your item in your cart or whatever, but let's just keep it simple for now. So let's save this and run it. So first it prints out the cart, sees that the cart's empty, and now we're typing in our input. I'll say apples. Oh, so as an individual. Okay, sorry, that happens. I didn't explain this yet. This was going to be later for when we're talking about loops and iterables. But honestly, I say let's leave this at here now. Let's let it do this for now. And I'll explain why that's happening later, because this is related to something else we're going to be doing in a couple seconds. Or actually when we talk about loops, sorry. So maybe let's ignore this example for now, but keep this in mind of what happened here. So we typed in something. We had item stat and cart. We had input type here. We had cart plus add to item, and then we said print cart. So we added this item to the cart, and it went like this. So keep that in mind. We're going to come back and talk about why that happened afterwards. But anyways, for now, hopefully that kind of explains lists a bit. So what you can do with lists to store multiple collections of data. Let's exit this for now just to clear that. And now let's go on to learn about loops. So we'll talk about loops. So what is a loop? So we probably all know what loops are. A loop is something that repeats itself over and over again until a certain condition is met. So here's our current Python program. Here's an example of what we can do right now. So we can say pass equals input type here. So we're just saying type here is the box. And then we're saying pass equals 1, 2, 3, print correct, else print incorrect. So basically it's just a simple password thing. So you can type in a password and then it prints out something to tell you if it's correct or incorrect, or I guess you could even say a keyword or a code, whatever you want to call it. So when we're normally entering passwords on like an application, like maybe our email accounts, or we're logging into any platform, if we don't get our password right the first try, the program doesn't end there, but we get to do it again, right? But in this program, if we create it for ourselves right now, when we run it, if the user doesn't get the password correct, so in this case, if the user doesn't type in 1, 2, 3, the program ends and that's the end of it. So that's really cool and stuff, but that's only going to be useful if it's like a really important password. Maybe it's like launch codes to something. But yeah, for us, what we're doing, we want to try multiple times to get our password right. So maybe we want to give the user 10 attempts to get their password, or maybe if it's really not that important, they can try as much as they want and they can do it in a limited amount of times. So how would we go about doing this? Because right now we definitely don't want it to fail on the first try and then kick them out, right? So we want to use loops. So first of all, there are two loops in Python. There are for loops and there are while loops. Those are two different names of them. So for loops, while loops. So pretty easy to differentiate them. I'll just say it here on this slide. So you use for loops when you know how many times you want to loop through something. So if you want to do it 5 times, you know the exact number of times you're doing it for, you're going to use a for loop. On the other hand, you have while loops, and you use those for when you're looping for an unknown amount of times, or if maybe you're looping forever. Okay, so those are the two different ones. So you don't know when the loop's going to end with a while loop, so you just have it loop until a condition's met. Before a for loop, even if the condition's not met, you end the loop after a certain amount of times it goes through, after a certain amount of iterations. So iterations is each time it goes through a loop. So for loops can iterate over a sequence of numbers using the range function. So range function is completely different. That's just a function on its own, but pretty much we can add that on top of a for loop to iterate through numbers like that. So it's one of the simpler ways to do that. And we can use a for loop for when we want to loop something for a known amount of time. So once again, we already said that. So here's the syntax for a for loop. So we have for, the keyword for, it's a keyword, and we have name of something here. We're going to go into more depth of this in a second. So we have, in this case, for I in. So in's another keyword, and then we're saying in this like range or in this set or however long, right? So in this case, we're using the range function to say how many times it's going to loop. So we're saying for I in range, blah, 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 do blah, blah, blah. So down here's all the code we want to keep looping. So let's look at this ourselves. This might not be too clear right now, so let's try it for ourselves. So once again, to create a for loop, it's the keyword for, and we have something over here. So this over here, this is basically a variable we create, but I think it's better if we explain this afterwards. But for now, just name this whatever you want. So I'm going to name this, in this case, for item. So I'm going to say for item, and I'm going to say in range. And then my range for the range function, by the way, you just you pass a number. That's pretty much saying in this range. So from blah, blah, blah. So in this case, I'm just going to say in range 8. I can just put it like that. And then if you put only one thing, if you only pass one value with it, it knows that's when it's stopping. So this is one of the ways you can just get it to say 8 times. I'm going to say for item in range 8, I'm going to say print stop. I'm going to print hello. Save that. Let's run it. It's going to run on this display. We see how many times it ran. It ran 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It ran 8 times. So once again, the range function is just one of those ways you can easily get it to do it a certain number of times. We literally just put a number here and it runs it that many times. But if we're not trying to do that, we don't have to use a range function. And once again, I want to note this: the range function isn't just built for the for creating for loops. It's its own function completely. It's used for other stuff as well, but we can use it for the for loop function like this, or for loop statement like this. But another way we can do something like this is that we don't need to pass the number like this. We can pass it through something that is an iterable. So what is an iterable? An iterable is something that can be iterated through in Python, okay? Something that can be iterated through is a string. So this might not be a little bit clear, but let's just try to break it down. So an iterable is, once again, something that can be iterated through, meaning it can be looped through because it has a certain amount of times or has like numbers to represent something. So a string, for example, the string, let's say hello, it can be iterated through each character within it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I can do something like this. Let's say a equals hello like that. Go up here, close that like so. I'm going to say for item in A. So if we run this again, let's do something else. Let's say by. If we run this again, by prints out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and it's iterating through each character in hello, each character in the string hello, because that's what A is. So a string isn't iterable in Python because it has something to be iterated through. So this type of stuff, you just have to you have to actually like see what it does, and then you automatically know how it works. And yeah, so a string's an iterable. There's no way to like tell really. You can guess if something's an iterable, but you literally just have to like search it up and find out if it's an iterable. So a string is an iterable in Python, and a list is also an iterable in Python. So if I had a list, and let's just say each item on our list, let's say first one's apple. Let's do one more, honestly. Let's say 1, and then let's say hello. So that's 3 items on our list. I'll just put a comment like that if we're going to add another one. So a list is also an iterable because it has things that can be iterated through like so. So I'm going to save this and run it. Let's tell it to print ice cream this time. Save, run. And we see ice cream gets printed 3 times, meaning this loop ran 3 times because each time the loop runs, we can tell by printing ice cream. So a list is also an iterable, and we can do a lot of cool things with that as well. So what about this item variable over here? What's going on with that? So here's what I want to do. Instead of having just printing stuff like this, I want to make a program so that each time it runs, I want it to update with what iteration it's on. How can I do that? So there are a lot of ways I can go about doing this, but let's try one per se. So for item in A, let's remove it like that. Let's say item, let's say sequence equal 0. Let's say sequence is equal item. Actually, I guess we're not gonna do that. We'll just say, let me see, how do I want to do this? I guess I have to define it outside. So say, I'm just gonna say number equals 0, and we want it to update now. So I want number to be updated. I want to print out with the newest value each time. So it's gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it's on. So let's try it. But before we try that, honestly, I said I wanted to explain this item thing, so let's look at that first. So I'm going to go back to what we did earlier. So let's go here. And let's say instead of printing ice cream or whatever, remember I said item is a variable we create up here. So let's say, let's print item instead. So save that. I'm just going to close that again to refresh it. I'll run it here. And let's see. So it prints item, and we see that when it prints item, it's printing each individual thing within this list, right? So that's pretty interesting. So let's try something else now. Let's say instead of a list, let's print out a string. Let's print a string hello. So it's going for item in A. So we save this now, and we run it. So it prints out HELLO. So once again, it's printing out each thing, and it's doing it 5 times total because of what's called because the string is 5 characters long and a string is an iterable, right? So what's going on here? We're saying print item. So if we can tell what's going on here, item is updated with what the current iteration is on for like that iterable it's grabbing it from, if that makes sense. So in this case, let's try to imagine it. So the loop runs the first time and it, let's go back to this. So in this example, we have up here with Apple 1 hello. The loop runs the first time, so it goes through and then it grabs it and it says, oh, this is Apple. So for this time, Apple is what is equal to item. And when we say print item, it prints out Apple because that's what it is at this time. The second time it goes through now, it's on the second iteration, right? So it goes over here, it grabs the second one, and now item is equal to 1, the second value in this list. So item is equal to 1 and it prints 1. And then the third thing happens for the same, or the same thing happens for the third one, sorry. So it goes through, items equal to hello because we're on the third one, and it grabs this value and it prints it out here like so. So that's pretty cool. So what we can do to manipulate this is that I think we can go something like this. So let me try creating something and I'll tell you what's going on afterwards. Let me just write the code for this first. Oh, I'm not putting space there. Okay, my keyboard's kind of messy. I don't know why it's doing that. So I can do something, let's see, I'll just say range. I'll use range for now. I'll say 10. And then let's clear this out again. We have a lot of stuff here. Save, run, and let's drag it back here. So this is what I've written. This doesn't matter right now. So we have number equals 0, and then we have for item in range 10. It's going to add 1 to number. It's going to print number out. So what's actually happening here? So first off, I had to define number outside of the for loop for this reason. If a number was defined within the for loop, this is what would happen. So I put number in here, or actually I'll explain both ways right now. So right now, number is outside of 0. So number by base is equal to 0, and then later we create a for loop. So this for loop is saying for item in range 10, so we're just going to run 10 times. It's going to add 1 to number each time, and then it's going to print number. So plus 1 to number, and it's going to print it, and it's going to keep going through over and over again, right? And that's all that's happening. So it's pretty simple. So we're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Awesome. But if I had this variable within it like so, what's happening now is that I'm saying for in range 10, you're creating the variable number and it's equal to 0. And then you're adding 1 to it and then you're printing number. Then it's going to go through again and it's going to reset number back to 0 because this is a loop and it's going to keep running all the code over and over again that's inside it. So its number goes back to 0 and it adds 1 and it prints number again. So if we run this, save it. If we run it, we see we get 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 because the number keeps getting reset to 1 like that. So hopefully that makes sense. So out of my curiosity, I wonder what happens if I print item now that I'm not using, if I'm using range. Let's see what happens. I'm curious. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to run it. So it looks like this is how range works. So it starts at 0 and it goes to 10. So I'm guessing I could probably, yeah, I could accomplish the same thing like this. So since it starts at 0, since it's like a built-in Python thing, Python's reading it to start at 0. What I can do probably is I can go like plus 1. And then I can run it again. And then I'll print it out normally as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Because remember, Python starts counting from this 0. Yeah, that's looks like how item works with range. So hopefully that makes sense on for loops a bit. And now let's try building that password program we had, that simple password program we had, and fixing it. So first off, let's, should we give the user an option to create a password? Let me see. Okay, we're pretty good on time. but I also want to talk about while loops, so and methods as well. So let's try doing it. So I'm going to say create pass equals input. I'll say created. Create, or actually I'll say new pass, honestly. New pass equals input, enter, and create a pass. Okay, so the user gets to create a password. And then down here now, we're going to say that it's going to, let me see how I want to do this. I'm trying to see if I either want it so that the user's already given a password, we just create a variable with a string, the user gets to create it. Honestly, they can create it. And then we'll say that they should enter in their password now. So enter say pass underscore prompt equals, I have too many spaces. I don't know why my keyboard keeps doing that, but anyways, pass prompt equals enter in your pass. Honestly, no, let's go like this. We'll do confirm pass. Confirm pass equals input type in your pass again. That's too long. I'll just say confirm pass. We'll go like that. And then we'll basically just do a program that I guess checks if the confirm pass is the same. We can actually do a lot. I'm trying to see what should we do. Let's make it a bit more complicated. I'm going to go full screen here and let's make it a little bit more in depth. So there's going to be two parts of this program. It's going to be creating a password, and then it's going to be using that password to get in afterwards. So for now, we're going to say creating password. They create a pass over here, and then we're saying confirm pass equals confirm pass over here. Now we want an if to check it, right? So I guess we're creating a mini program right now. But anyways, I'm saying if new pass equals, so once again, this would be a lot easier or a lot faster to type with a proper IDE because it'd be auto-completing my variable names. But anyways, confirm, maybe ignore my spelling mistakes or try to help me with my spelling mistakes. I don't know why that double space keeps happening. So if new pass equals confirm pass, print pass word created. Password has been created. So we could also do usernames, but for time's sake, we're not going to do that. We're just going to act as if we're only creating passwords. So we're going to say password created, end it like that. We're going to say else, because honestly, the else is if it's not equal together. Also, this should be two equal signs. We're going to say else print not passwords don't, I'm going to have to go forward slash like this, don't match like that, okay? So that's cool. And now we're going to go on, we're going to say, we're going to continue from here. So we're going to say passwords have been created, and within here, now what do we want to do? What's the point of this program again? We want to create a loop. So we're going to say login login prompt equal input enter and pass. I'm just going to remove this space. That looks good. Login prompt equal enter and pass. And then we're going to say, another if statement, if login prompt equal confirm pass, it's going to print done. And then we'll do an else print invalid or incorrect. And I'll just change this to say correct instead then. So that looks good. So let's run this. We're going to see this, and we're going to add the loop onto it afterwards. So first, we're going to make sure to just get create pass, confirm pass. If new pass equals confirm pass, print password has been created. And then else down here, passwords don't match. So we can even create a loop for this one to try again afterwards. For now, let's try this. So we're running this. So let's go full, let's close this first, actually, and then let's run this again. And now we'll go full screen. So create a pass. My password is going to be a dare. It's going to say confirm pass. If I say my password is Bob, it's going to say passwords don't match. Let's run it again. F5. So create a pass. I'm going to say a dare, confirm pass, dare, password has been created. And now I'm just logging in now to enter my pass. And I'll say password is Bob. It says incorrect. Let's run that one more time. And we saw how the program ended, right? I wanted to try again to enter my password. But anyways, create pass, adere, confirm pass, adere, enter pass, adere. So correct. So this is, it works successfully. So let's add our loops on top of this now. So first of all, if the user enters in the wrong password, they can try again. Or sorry, if the user's passwords don't match, they can try again. And then what's called the second loop is going to be that they can enter in their password when they're logging in, they get to try again. So let's do the second loop first. So first we want to have a range, right? We're using for loops, so we know how many times they're going to try. So first we're going to go for, let's just say attempts in range. Once again, I name this whatever I want. And I say, I'll just say in range 10. Once again, this is a simple way to just get it to go from 10. If I really wanted, for some reason, I could create a list and I could have 10 items in that list, and I could remove an item for each time. But anyways, let's just do like this for now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to indent all of this into my loop, and it's going to do this. So for attempts in range 10, so 10 times, it's going to say enter and pass. If login equals confirm pass, print correct, else print incorrect. So the problem with this right now is that if the user gets it correct, sure, that ends and it goes back to the loop again, but that's not what we want. If they get it correct, the program should end. So how do we do that? So to do this, we have another keyword in Python called break. I hope I'm not losing the S. So we have another keyword called break over here, and this pretty much just breaks the loop. So yeah, it's pretty simple like that. So for attempts in range 10, so for each attempt in the range of 10 times you're going to do this. You're going to log in, or it's going to ask for a password. It's going to check to see if the password is the same as confirm pass. If it is, it's going to print correct, else it's going to print incorrect. But I want it to end after this, so I'm going to say break. And that's literally it. So now it sees the break goes, the break looks for whatever loop it's in, and it breaks it for that loop. So it sees the only loop we're in is the for, and it breaks it for that one. And the program will end here. So if the password's incorrect, what I can do is that I can just leave it like that, and I'll go complete the loop a second time. So that's the first for loop right over here. So let's create the next one now. Let's zoom out a bit. Or actually, that's gonna be too much work. Let's just go on to the next one. So next one is for creating a pass. So let's see, we're gonna have to probably have a big for loop over here so they can actually see the create a pass again, right? So let's see. First, we need to know where our break's gonna be. So if new pass equals confirm password, we're gonna say password is gonna be created. And I guess over here, we're also going to break the loop. Let me see. How do I want to do this? let's just say for x in range, I'll just say 10 for now. We're going to change this afterwards with while loops. I'll say for x in range 10. This all needs to be indented in, so that's what I'm going to do like that. Now that that's indented in, it's going to run all of this 10 times, right? But that's not what we want. We want just to really run this one. So we say new pass equals confirm pass. So actually what I can do here is this. I'm not going to indent this. I'm going to go back like this, and then only this is going to be indented. So it's going to say for x in range 10, you're going to ask them to create a pass, and you're going to confirm a pass. And then you're going to still do the same check. So I'll just copy this over here. Or actually, let's just indent it in. It's still going to do this check here. And it's going to say, if new pass equals confirm pass, print password has been created. And then we're going to break. Let's see. Then we need an else still. So since we have an else, we have to put that up here. So this is looking a little bit confusing, but maybe we'll fix it afterwards. So I'm just going to clean everything up so we can go through it again quickly and it makes sense. So I'm going to push this down now. This can be indented one less else. Let me see, I'm indenting the wrong way, am I? Okay. Did I forget how to indent backwards? Let's see, I'll just go push it like this. Okay, I think I forgot how to the shortcut for indenting the other way to push it back. I thought it was Shift Tab, but never mind. We'll just fix that afterwards. Just go like, how should we do this? Just push it back, I guess. Okay, so I'm gonna push this out of the way for now. Let's look at this. So for this is going to run 10 times. That's all. We'll just leave it like that for now. So it's going to say new pass equals create a pass. It's going to confirm pass. So we're going to ask them to enter in a second time. When we check to see if new pass equals confirm pass, if it is, it's going to print password has been created and it's going to break the loop. Else, it's going to print passwords don't match. And then honestly, I'll ask me after, I'll say try again. And then the loop's going to restart. It's going to ask them to create a pass and confirm a pass and do all that again. And then once they finally get out, or once they finally get it right, it's going to say password has been created because it's going to be equal to each other. And it's going to break this loop. So this loop's done. We're done with this part of the program. So it's going to move down now to this. So now it's going to say 4 attempts in range of 10. Another 10 tries they get for this one. They have to log in now. So we're going to ask them to enter in a password with input. Then we're checking to see if what they entered in is equal with their confirmed pass, the thing they created up here. And then if it is, it's going to print correct and it's going to break. Else, it's going to print incorrect. And then we'll also say to print try again and put a period like that. So I hope all of this is clear. If you have any questions throughout this entire thing, I haven't said this at all throughout the whole thing. Actually, I should have been saying this a lot more. If you have any questions about anything we've done so far, even from earlier with lists, you can put them in chat and I'll answer. But if everything's going all right now and you're understanding everything what we're doing, I'd be grateful if you could put like maybe a yes in chat or like a I understand, this is all good or something like that, just to show you understand. Make sure I'm not going too fast. But anyways, yeah, so let's save this and let's try running. I might have an error here because I might have a typo or something, but the program should be correct. So we're creating a password. I'm going to say the password is going to be Adair the first time. When I confirm my password, I think I wrote it backwards. I'm going to say Rita, right? That's what I said. It says passwords don't match. Try again. So our loop's already working. We get to try again now. I get to create a pass again. So I'm going to say Adair. I'm going to confirm the pass. I'm going to say, okay, the password is Adair1. Passwords don't match. Try again. So now it's getting lost because it's I haven't done it, and this is my second attempt now, right? And I have 10 attempts. So we could see what happens if I did this 10 times, but that's going to be wasting time. So let's just enter in something correct now. Let's say create a pass, Adair, confirm pass, Adair. it says passwords have been created. So it breaks that loop now, right? We're not in the same loop anymore. We're entering in a pass now. That's the second part of the program. And yeah, so enter in a pass now. I'm going to enter my password. I'm going to say my password is Bob. So it's incorrect, try again, and it loops, so I get to enter it in again. So I'm going to say B, incorrect, try again. I'm going to say L, incorrect, try again. I'm going to correct the right thing, and I'm going to say Adere. And it says correct, and the program ends, so it breaks after I get it right. So that's for loops, and that's how we can do it a set amount of times. And remember, we don't need to do it in range like this. If we wanted, we could do in a range of a list, in a range of a string, just other things that are iterables, so it can be iterated through. And with lists, doing stuff like that, once again, I haven't showed you real in-depth examples, but you can do a lot of really cool stuff with that. You just have a lot of things relying on each other in order for certain things to happen, just like a lot of stuff bouncing through. It can get pretty cool. So you can build a lot of complicated stuff, and I recommend you play around with it, especially not just using range, but other stuff like lists. Because then you can have it still like maybe the user adds to the list, and then they get to say how many tries they want, or you can have a set amount of tries, and it can have something pop up on the list each try. Just a lot of complicated, cool stuff you can do with it with what we know right now. So those are for loops, and that's more of an in-depth example of showing how we use them. So I'm not sure if we're going to have time for methods today, so we're just going to go to while loops, and we're going to wrap it up for today's camp. But anyways, something quick I can show you is that if you want to comment out multiple lines of code, all this is an official way of commenting. What most people do is that they just put 3 single quotations like this. It pretty much does the same exact thing. It's not a proper way of commenting, but it is going to make it so it's not seen. I don't know how I opened the G4 experience. There we go. So like that's pretty much, it's not properly commented out once again, but it's invisible to our thing. So I'm just going to go down here, and I'm going to write more code because we're going to go back up to that one. Actually, maybe we won't. Yeah, I'll just copy and paste it because we're going to go back up to this one afterwards, and we're going to change it so it's using while loops. So let's just go copy, exit that, and now let's write. So while loops. So while loops pretty much like this. While condition do this. That's pretty much a while loop. It's a lot more simpler than for loops because once again, we're looping for an unknown amount of times. So we're going to say while condition. So it can be anything. Let's see, while 1 equals less than 3. It's going to run all the code that's down here. So pretty much it's doing while true. If I want, I can say while not. So that's, remember, doing the reverse thing with a not keyword. So now it's checking to see if it's false. So by default, while, if you don't put anything, it's always checking to see if it's true. So it's pretty much doing like this. So while 1 equals greater. So this is what the while loop's actually saying, but what you'll see most people doing is that just put it like this alone, because this is pretty much just a shortcut of saying the same thing, because by default, it's checking to see if it's true. In this case, the loop will never end, or actually, sorry, 1's less than 3. In this case, the loop will never end because 1 will always be less than 3, right? So whatever code we have down here will keep running. So this might be weird, but I'll just type in actually, yeah, let's do the number example. We'll just see the number keep going. I'm just going to put number up here equal 0. Say number plus, once again, my keyboard's pretty funny. Number plus 1. I'm going to say print number. And then let's run this. Okay. So you can see that this loop's just never ending, and it's going to keep running. It's going to go pretty fast. So if you ever have like an infinite loop and you do this by mistake, a shortcut on your keyboard you can do to end this is that you would do Control-C. That's pretty much a keyword interrupt, as you can see right here, and it just breaks the loop and it ends the program basically. So that's just something to know if you ever create a loop. But we can see how many times this loop pretty fast, got all the way to 5,400. So that's a while loop, and it just keeps running forever. And yeah, they're pretty simple. I don't have too much to say because we talked about looping a lot with for loops. So we covered the hard stuff, so it's now pretty easy from here. So let's go back to this program. Let's change it so that the user can create a password, or they can try creating a password as many times as they like. So simply to do this, I can just go while So in this case, let's say while, let's create something up here. I'll say while pass created, I'll say pass created equals false by default. So we're going to say while not pass created. So this is saying while pass created is equal to false, which is what it is right now. It's going to run all of this, and then the break keyword still works with while loops, by the way. And yeah, so with this, we'd be able to create a password in an infinite amount of times, or we'd be able to attempt creating it in an infinite amount of times. For the for loop, I say we keep it as the same because somebody's trying to break into your account. If you give them an infinite amount of tries, that might not be very good because they'll just keep trying over and over again. And yeah, you can give them a timeout maybe, but yeah. So that's while loops and that's for loops. So we've covered a lot of time. We've covered a lot today, and I don't want to do any more because we've learned a lot today, and I don't want to bombard you with too much. So let's call that to be the end of the camp. So pretty much I'll show you a sneak peek for what we're going to do next camp because we're supposed to do it this camp. But yeah, so those are for loops. A while loop continues to do something while the condition is true. Once again, by default, it's doing that for true. We can change it to be false. And then, yeah, syntax for while loops, that's what it looks like. While loop equals true. If we want to skip the equal to equals true, we can just say while loop, so it does it by default. We're going to learn about Python methods, but those are pretty similar. We can talk about them next camp. So we're going to call that the end of today's camp. Hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully, how would you use, oh, sorry, I just saw the question right now. How would you use the number plus equals? I don't know what you mean by number. I think you mean operator. How would you use the operator plus equals? So let's just look at that quickly again. I don't understand your question too well, but I'll just try to showcase it quickly. So the plus equals is not a comparison operator, and it's also not an arithmetic operator. It's an assignment operator. So the plus equals is pretty much just to add on to something, and it works differently within data types. So for example, if I had, once again, let's say, how do I want this? If I had a list, if I had A equals a list like this, if I want to add what the user said to the list, or actually another way I can do that's what we can do it with a method, which is what we're going to talk about later. But then the way I can do it is I can just simply say, what's called, let's create a user thing first. Let me look at prior to that as well. Okay, so, okay, I think I understand the question, or I just saw a response. Anyways, input like that. Say, and then we'll have a list like that. So pretty much what I can say is that I want the list to be added onto, right? So I can say B like that. So this is add on to. This isn't equal to. This isn't setting it equal something. It's simply saying add on top of it. So it knows, it recognizes that there's an existing variable on it, and it will add on top of to it depending on whatever that data type is. So it has specific rules for what it follows. So in this case, it knows that this is a list, and it says, so we're adding something to the list. In this case, we're adding A, which is user input. So we can just save this quickly and run it. So I'm just going to type in my response here. I'll say, or actually, I guess we won't tell. I have to print out the list. So let's say, first, we're going to print B. So first, we're going to see the list before we print anything out. We're going to print the list down here again. Do I understand the question? How would you use the number? How would you use the number plus that's the same as. Okay, number plus is the same as number equals. Okay, yeah. What the guy said in chat was correct. So it's pretty much a shortcut for doing it, and yeah. So we're once again, yeah, it's the same thing as what he said. So saying number plus 1. So it's basically a shortcut. So it's just saying add on to like this. So I guess if I'm gonna show, I guess I'll show what he said basically. So you can go number equals number plus 1, or instead of doing this, we just do number plus equals 1. So we're adding on top of it still, but in this way, we're adding on top of it because we're calling on that variable and then we're saying plus 1. But in this way, this recognizes that it already had an existing variable and it just adds on top of it to 1 like this. You can do either way and you get the same result. But then for a list, something more specific like a list. Okay, I think chat's late. I just showed an example. But anyways, for something like this in a list, it'd be like this. So let's call that B, and I'll say print B. I'll run the examples. What I mean, okay. Okay, yeah, I'll show that example again. Number. First, I have to give number value up here. I'll just say number equal 0. So if I say this and I say print number down here, I'll save it and then I'll run it. Numbers equal to 0 first, and then we say number equals number plus 1. Maybe we'll go more in depth. I'll say, actually no, we'll just leave it like this. Keep it simple. F5. And then we see when we print number, we get 1 to the console like this. So I can do the same thing here. I can just erase this. I can go like this, save it and run it again, and we still get 1 to the console. So it's just adding on top. So taking that, this one recognizes the existing variable, so you don't have to write out number plus 1 again, and it just does it. So this is an assignment operator. Once again, I don't know if it has a proper name or if it does, I don't know it. But yeah, that's how it works. And we can use it for lists as well. So it does different things depending on what you're doing. So what I was trying to show quickly was I was trying to show so with a list, I could go like this. So I have an existing list, and I could use this to add on to the list to add another item to it. So I could go A. I could say whatever I want. I could say hello. I could say print A. Just to make it clear, I'm going to have it so that it does it twice. So 1 before and then 1 after. So 1 after we add A and then 1 before we add A. So run it. We see that the first time it goes through and it prints A because A is what's it called? A is by itself, it's just printing the empty list. And then the second time, it prints hello like this. And the reason it prints hello like that is because the way we're adding it to the list. Because remember I was talking about iterables earlier, so it's going to add each thing as its own individual item. I never wrapped that up, but that's pretty much what's happening here. Do another example with a different number as well. For example, okay, I'll just go back to this example. So I can say, just to show off that thing once again, I could say plus 50, and then I have to define the number, of course, already. So I'll print number before and I'll print number after just to show the updates. Or I could even go change this so it's grabbing the user input. So let's say input. say like that. And then it's going to do, I'll say it's going to do number plus HUD is going to print the number. I think this is going to work. So it prints the number first. 10 is already what it is, and we add our number on top of it. So I'll say 60, and then it prints 70. So just added them on top of that. Makes sense. So input was equal to an integer, and then we're saying number plus input. So we're using this operand again. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me check the comments. So can you use this in order to add points from a response? Okay. So yeah, hopefully that all makes sense. It looks like we're good. So, okay, yeah, all right, thank you. So we're gonna call that the end of today's camp. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully everything was clear, and I'll talk to you guys next time. So thank you.